Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Quit eating your almonds and quit throwing them at me.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're going.
Oh, right now?
Yeah. Abby's been having some... It's been an interesting evening getting around to doing this podcast. It's so funny because it's funny because Abby's been working on this reel for Instagram, which quite honestly is about me and how much she loves me, which is like a really interesting thing to have her
No. Let me rewind the night.
Oh, okay.
Let me set the stage.
Okay.
We were supposed to record a podcast tonight.
Yeah.
After I got home from work. I have a migraine. So I was like, can I take a nap first? So I laid down on the couch. You were very gracious because that was already ruining the plan.
Totally.
And I took a nap. And then I still felt rough. So I was like, can I just lay on you a little bit? Which was very nice of you. You said yes.
Totally.
So I laid on you. And while I was laying on you, I scrolled Instagram and this song came on that made me so swoony about you.
Yeah.
That it just arrested me. And I had to make a video right then with that song.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did.
And so at every turn.
and then I'm a perfectionist. So I had to keep scrolling and find the perfect photos and videos. They're not even the perfect ones, but they are good.
Yeah, they are good.
And then I felt so swoony. I watched it over and over again. Then I wanted your opinion on it. And you were like, oh my gosh, I just want to get.
So what it's been like this evening has been like one of those dreams where you have a destination to get to. And then you keep like trying to get to it. And then you can't get to it. And then you realize that you're naked. And then you're trying to find your clothes. And you're feeling so infuriated.
It would have been funny if you actually just got naked. Fine. If you're not recording a podcast, I'm naked.
Yeah, it was a very interesting evening, and I think I've done pretty well with it.
Oh, you've been regulated the whole time.
Yeah,
just calm, saying your feelings. I'm feeling really out of control, but I'm really nice.
I love you, and I feel really out of control.
Yeah, you've been really, really nice. I think it's like, I think sometimes sick brain tunnel visions a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, also ADHD brain does that, but.
Yeah. Well, here we are right now, and you finished.
Then you started it, the recording before I knew.
Would it help you if I helped you get some vision for this podcast to be able to focus?
You know, I'm so freaking excited about this podcast because we're talking about something we've never done a podcast like we're about to do, and it is one of the core values that we believe that has changed our life the most. And transformed us. And we haven't shared a lot about it on the podcast.
Okay. It's going to have to do with vision, just so y'all know. And I know that last week, if you listened, there was a type of vision that we engaged for the very first podcast of the year. And there was the idea of getting vision for who we're becoming and starting there. And now we're going to expand into another space of vision because as we're launching into 2023, we want to help people get inspired and get empowered and then like get clarity on what, like how can I actually affect my life? And what are practical ways that I can participate in that? And there's some really cool ways that we have like gone on the journey of co-creating our future, even when we didn't have answers to what that was going to be. And we didn't have practical like steps of like, well, we have to do this action step and then this action step and that action. It began with birthing something inside of us. And we're going to talk about some of the birthing process and the power of that birthing process.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
We actually do a good amount of deep dive about our beliefs and what's going on in our conscious and our subconscious in living fully alive and how to transform your beliefs. So what we're talking about today is like a breadcrumb. And this is your last chance to sign up for Living
That's
Fully
it.
Alive
Then done, over.
2023.
Mm-hmm.
And
no more Living Fully Alive till next year.
listen, we always let the few last stragglers in a few days after. So just hurry up and jump in. And then you will have people who love you, who are championing you, who are believing in you, come alongside you.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's go with this vision, Abi.
Okay. So something that me and you have done is we have always, well, we learned about the power of vision, I think, at a young age in our lives.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. And so we've been very proactive to find ways to partner with what kind of vision we had for our lives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with a couple. We'll just tell. I thought we'd tell some stories and then kind of unpack the things that helped us in those stories.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one would be when me and Justin first made it to Redding, when we first moved here, we were trying to figure out like what it is. You know, we didn't know what we were made for, and we didn't know how it would happen or what it would be.
Yeah, and I think that universally people like it's pretty universal that people have that phase of life.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes they never get out of it, and that's not a bad thing. It just doesn't.
Or sometimes
happen.
you go into vision and then you come out and you need to find a new vision.
Right, because there's ebbs and flows to kind of the invitations that happen to our life and who we're becoming. But there can be a really war within. I went through, I've watched a lot of people go through like, who am I? What am I made to be? What's the point of this? And it can be a really intense feeling as you're going through it. And it's okay. If you're in that struggle, that's okay. Yeah. We were there. We didn't have it. And we were like, all right, who are we?
It's actually why we moved to Redding.
Yeah. Because
we didn't know what we were doing and where we would be and whatnot. And we lived in LA and we're like, that's a real expensive place to have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, to just be sitting around and slowly spending all the money that we have left. And just going like, I hope it works out.
So we came to Redding and we were having conversations about like our lives and our futures. And I think that is something that has really helped vision for me in our life, is that we often have conversations. We go on walks, we pray, we talk about what are the things we're feeling life on, what are the things we're feeling excited about, what are the things that we could see in our future. And
part of it's a verbal process. So really what you're talking about, I'm just wanting to highlight that, is there's just a verbal process. And we're not stuck in the idea of like whatever we say here is like the golden rule for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
But it's just like, I don't know, let's just keep talking and see what comes up and what resonates.
Yeah. I think that it's really good to key in on that. It's normally like probably 5 conversations a few months in when we get more clarity of what we're even like, where you're like, oh, that's it. Oh, that's the thing I'm feeling.
I didn't really like when I said this, I realized I didn't mean that, but this thing inside of me is what was
really true. And so I think me and you realized that we just spent the year traveling around the US in our truck. And I think we knew travel is in our future. And I knew I was supposed to be a speaker my whole life. I had like always had flashes.
That resonated inside of you of like, this is me.
Yeah, I had flashes of, like I went to so many conferences myself and I was like, I'm made to do that, which is funny because I was so self-conscious and did not want to be in front of people and did not feel powerful or capable. And I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. Like no part of it actually made sense for my personality at that point, but I knew, no, I'm made to be on that stage. I'm made to do that. And when I saw people who were great communicators, I was like, I'm meant to impact people in this way. I remember Pete's mom, she was the pastor at the church. Like she and her husband co-pastored, and she would wear blazers. And Pete always laughs and makes fun of me because I was like, Pete, one day I'm going to wear a blazer and I'm going to speak on stage. Oh. She laughed so hard that I equated blazers with that. And then now when I became a speaker, I wore blazers a lot. And she was like, there, you did it.
There he is.
You did
There's
it. But
blazer.
That's the point. The visualization of me being like, one day I'm going to be on stage and I'm going to wear blazers. Like that is something I had in my mind's eye, that picture in my mind's eye for years. And I didn't know how. I didn't figure out the only few things. like there's some breadcrumbs sometimes I think that we follow. So like when I was a teenager, there was this course.
I also have something I want to add, but whenever you want, I wanted to jump
Okay.
in there. Whenever you feel good about it.
You
I don't
want
want
to just
overly
interrupt me to interrupt me more. You're so cute. Well, I remember as a teenager, there was this one course. It was like a 3-day speaking course
Yeah.
by somebody that I liked how they spoke. And so I took it and it was very vulnerable and it stretched me a lot. So there's like little breadcrumbs like that. But then every other thing in my life made no sense. There was nothing I was doing that was getting me closer to speaking. And I think the balance of having a dream, the balance is being proactive to do things to grow it and also surrendering and trusting that you will get where you need to go. Like most of us either do practical things, but try to control it and try to make it happen and then feel really frustrated because we can't, or we do nothing and we're really passive and we're like, it'll just magically happen one day. And the healthiest thing is found in the balance between those two things, but it is hard to hold on to being purposeful and intentional and surrendered and trusting.
That's so good. I got to throw this in there so that I can let it go and move on instead of my head because it's like sitting here ruminating and I'm like, I won't be able to engage if I don't distribute this thing. But it's interesting. I keep getting this mental image of teeth and I keep hearing dentist. And this is the funniest thing ever. But it's not for me. It feels like it's this intuitive feeling that someone's listening and that they have a dream to be a dentist and they think that they're foolish for it. Like, oh, that's dumb to be like I just like have this thing for dentistry and I don't know why, but that's kind of a stupid thing because I should want to be something else. And almost like this idea that that's not enough or something. It was a really weird thought that ran through my head. And I was like, if for some reason there's someone listening, then maybe it's not a dentist. Maybe there's just people that have certain dreams and it
maybe
crosses.
Somebody wants to be like a denture maker. Maybe somebody's like, you know what my dream is? My dream is to make retainers.
Yeah. Well, the point is that I'm trying to get at on this is that even if it doesn't happen to be someone for a dentist thing, it applies to anyone who feels like their dream or their desire feels kind of stupid or whatever. You can apply this to your life. But I really think that there's someone that like dentistry really resounds with them and you've minimized the desire for that and you don't want to actually hope and dream for it because you feel like that's not big enough. Well, it's actually something, if it's resonating inside of your heart, don't look at it as stupid. Just be like, all right, cool. Like, I don't know, there's this thing about dentistry. It's really cool. Go with it. And whatever that is, like what Abby's saying is that there was something inside of her that felt like there was a poking, right? And it was like, oh, for me, it's speaking. Speaking has something to do with my life. And I'm going to kind of dream about it and see visions of myself inside of it and allow it to be. And like, if it doesn't ever happen, whatever, it doesn't ever happen. But there was a yes to some inkling inside of you. And that was just the first foundation to it instead of judging it, right? Yeah.
If you judge a dream, you often already shut it down. You know, and so many of the things that bring you alive may or may not make sense, but honestly, feeling fulfilled and passionate in life is so healing, even if it's not your whole job. Like speaking isn't my whole job now. It was in the past, but well, even then I always did other things also. I just think whatever the dream is, it can add to your life, whether it becomes your whole life or it's just a piece of your life. We're more fulfilled when we run after things. When we say, no, that's stupid, it's literally like telling a part of our heart, it doesn't matter. It's like telling ourselves, no, you're stupid. And that shuts down our hearts. And so if we want to live fully alive,
oh, dang, girl.
If we want to live fully alive, then we have to be nurturing our hearts, finding out what it is they mean. Like, what is it that you're actually looking for? And what is it that you're actually saying? Because our hearts, we talk about this in Living Fully Alive. It's one of the best teachings we have about how your hearts talk to you. And it's often cryptically. And so you have to learn how to decode what your heart.
When we talk about the heart, we mean that inner voice, that authentic inner voice. Something inside of you is saying like, hey, I want to do this. And then your logic brain goes, shut up. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. And you're like at war with that. And it may even sound absurd and it might even seem really wrong. But when she's talking about investigation, and investigation is like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah. I often I think our hearts are kind of like 2-year-olds that don't really know how to communicate yet. And so they might give a picture of one thing, but it actually means something else, or it's kind of like a mystery that you're uncoding.
And I can give an example of that from my life.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, I
do want to finish my story about speaking, just so we're clear, but after your picture.
Okay. So even from my own life, there was this thing that was like, oh, I want to be an actor, and forever that was like, oh, this is what I have to do, and this is what I have to be. I didn't do a lot of investigative work. I just was like, actor, I'm going to be an actor. But for me, as I continued on the journey and kept asking questions as we were just letting our life unfold, there was a point where I was like, oh, I don't want to act. I want influence. Like an actor represents influence, but it took a lot of investigation, and it went, okay, and then what does influence look like? What does it mean to influence? Who am I influencing? How am I influencing people? But those kept being questions that I'd ask. And so that's what I would suggest. Like, you may get something initially and then be like, I don't even feel fulfilled in this. It's because the initial thing is representing something so much more.
Yeah. Which honestly, if you want to learn to decode your heart, living fully alive is the best process, I think. It really does help you get in touch with your heart and then learn about what your heart's really trying to say and not judging it. Okay. So the first thing is, don't judge the vision or the spark that you have. But also don't take it as law that the only way you'll be fulfilled is if you get that thing.
Yeah.
As soon as we do that, we become enslaved to a dream instead of empowered by a dream. If you decide, I want to be a speaker and I won't be satisfied until I become a speaker, or I want to be a speaker and there's nothing else in the world that will make me happy, or I want to be a speaker and that's the only time I'll feel successful. Anything that you put high stakes on a dream, you've already then given your power away. And that's a very powerless feeling. And then you often end up showing up with life with desperation, and desperation pushes things away instead of inviting things into your life. And so don't judge it. I had vision for it. I didn't mean to have vision for it. I just often saw and imagined that that's what would happen. And then anytime there was a yes, even though I was terrified, anytime there was an opportunity or there was something that I felt invited into, which is basically your life of whenever there's a fear that you have an opportunity to face, you run at it. Yeah. So I did that. Mm-hmm. But here I am. We moved to Redding. I did that course when I was 17, that 3-day speaker course. And I had done maybe one other time that I spoke impromptu because somebody asked me to in the moment. But we came to Redding and I was like, no, I feel like I'm supposed to be a speaker in my life and we're supposed to travel. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that feeling for you?
Yeah, that was something that kicked around. I'm like, I know this is part of my life. And I think I had initiated that we needed to go to the airport locally here. And I was like, we're going to go drive to the airport. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go sit and pray at the airport. And I sat and got vision in my head of seeing me no, we're going to do this repeatedly, tons of times. This is going to be a place that we're going to take off out of, and we're going to go around the world from this place right here. Mm-hmm. And I just began to say yes internally, and even giving myself permission to believe it. I give myself permission to believe that this and feel what it'd feel like to drive up here and go get on a plane, to go do an event.
Yeah. We went multiple nights to the airport.
I think there was quite a few times we went to that airport.
Yeah, maybe 10 at least, where we would go and I would visualize oh, it's going to be it'll be so weird because at that point, I didn't travel very much through airports. And I was like, one day airports are going to feel like home. They're going to feel normal. I'm going to feel so comfortable walking through them because I know what I'm doing, because it's just second nature because I do it all the time. And I literally thought what it would be like if I was constantly speaking and traveling. And one day, we're going to love coming to the Redding airport and we're going to love going to the world from the Redding airport. And I don't think we necessarily said from the Redding airport because we don't like to limit vision. So I wouldn't have said, we will leave from the Redding airport to travel the world. It was just this airport represents airports.
Yeah.
Wherever we live, whatever airports we're going through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so I would visualize what it would be like to regularly fly out and come back, like have weekends where you go. Like that felt like a crazy idea for a lifestyle, to be able to just like leave for a weekend and come back, be somewhere else, and then be here and speak. I wasn't doing any of that, but we put that in our hearts and then did something about it.
Yeah.
And then I remember I had this person draw me a picture and it had an airplane on it, and they put some words about like traveling to and fro and all that kind of stuff. And I put it on our vision board. So we have a vision board, and it's not like, I mean, anything can be a vision board. Honestly, we had a whiteboard in our kitchen for a long time that I put pictures on around the rim of the whiteboard, and I put words on it. I've had a cork board before. Right now I just have like a wall in our bathroom that I've begun vision for, where I just put, like I said, words and images that represent whatever the thing we have vision for is. So I put the airplane traveling and the words that were all that. Again, we weren't speaking, we weren't traveling. But then within, I would say, 7 years from that time.
Yeah, it might have even been less than that. But
it might have been less. I don't know how soon it was, but I also don't want to overly say it was so fast. Yeah. We were traveling
5 years probably.
Yeah. With about 5 years later. And I want that to be known, because a lot of people.
We had nothing going for us.
No.
I think that needs to be clarified. Nothing going at all.
We didn't have jobs.
And we weren't at a place internally where I thought that we had something magical worth saying.
Yeah.
Like, what would I even say? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and then the story is really miraculous how like one thing led to another. The path unfolded beneath my feet.
Right.
Where I just ended up being at this right place. And then I had a dream that opened a door to this thing. And then
let me add a little piece to it, because I think it is vital. Like the initial invitation that Abby had was to be a receptionist. And that didn't,
I had a dream about working at the front desk of a church.
And the point and the reason that matters is that as we initiate some sort of vision and start partnering with vision inside of our hearts, invitations begin to pop their heads up that don't look like they make any sense whatsoever. Yeah. In fact, they can feel very torturous. Like, this is nothing about what I want to do. Why am I here? You know, you're sitting as a receptionist and grinding away as a receptionist, and that's it. And that unfolded. Like, there's so many more pieces to that ended up unfolding until finally here you are speaking on stages and traveling around
Which I should just give a little quick example, because I think this is like one of my favorite stories of my life, because it's very much just follow the breadcrumbs, which is when I became a receptionist, I was devastated. I was like, this is not what I'm made for. Like, I don't want to work in a church. I didn't even know if I believed in church at that point. Like, it was not my dream job. I did not want to go to answering phones.
No.
I had done a lot of, but I knew it was the next right step. So I did it. And
which is funny too, because it was a continuation of you answering phones as a receptionist previously in a small town that we had been in.
I worked at an Amish home log building company.
Yeah. And so I'm sure it was like traumatizing. Oh God, I'm going that far back.
Well, my fear was, if I wouldn't have fear, it wouldn't have been bad. My fear was, this must be what I'm meant for forever. Like, I took the moment of the season, the invitation of that moment, and thought, oh, this means I'm not actually meant to do anything better. Oh, this means this is all I'll ever be. This is all I'll ever do. And it became a defining label to me instead of like, this is just a season. And I remember getting checked by like what I would say divine inspiration, where I felt this like, this is just a season. This is a season where you have a gift to learn a bunch. And if you're defining your identity by it, you've missed it. And I remember thinking about that movie, Coming to America, where this prince comes to America and he gets a job at like McDonald's, which is basically McDonald's, but copyrights. And so But he's not worried about working there because he's super wealthy and the prince of a country. Like he doesn't feel like that defines him or limits him.
Right. He knows
he's so happy to be there.
Is at the end of the day.
He's so happy to be there. Like he just loved the job. He's so happy. It's Eddie Murphy. He's like the happiest guy in that movie. So I remember feeling checked by that and being like, if I took my identity out of this could just be like a fun season where I'm learning a bunch of things. And so I did. And one thing led to another. It was like a very divinely appointed, like the next thing is this random person heard this thing that I did. And then they invited me to do this. And then I just shared my story at this one thing. And then people heard about that and they wanted me to do it again. And I mean, it's wild because I literally, wasn't speaking at all, was working as a receptionist, had no idea how that would benefit my life at all. One day as a receptionist, we did an all staff meeting. And in that all staff meeting, I got inspired to write my story in like a sermon format. I wrote it out in like 10 minutes. I've never done that since. Like that was wonderful. It was so fast, so inspired. And then I just had this story sermon that I did nothing with for a while.
Yeah.
And then I got invited to this thing where I was like, oh, I can share this now. So I shared it to this one group of people. They were dramatically affected. So then they asked me if I would share it for the whole school. And so then I shared it for this whole school. And then people were dramatically affected for that. So they asked me if I would share it at a conference. So I shared it for this whole conference. And then people saw me speaking at the conference and just thought I was a speaker. So then from that moment on, I literally had talked 3 times. Like I went from never speaking. I didn't know how to write a speech. I didn't know anything. I just, that one day was inspired with that one moment in that one staff. And then I did one time had an opportunity. I just did it the best I could. And then that led to another. And then that led to another. And suddenly I had speaking invitations from all over.
Yeah.
And that snowballed into us traveling 3 times a month to speak and us still turning down tons of opportunities. And it was really fun. And we lived out everything we said we would.
Which, by the way, I want to add to this. Like for me, I'm in the background and she's getting a lot of invitations and not a lot is happening in my world as far as like certain longings. I know that for me, I had vision to just finish my book, The Tree of Life. And from there, I was like finding myself falling into helping people in consulting. And there's a part of me that goes, oh, my soul feels like it's screaming, like speaking is supposed to be for me. And she's the one getting a lot of the opportunities and stuff like that. And I had to continue to surrender like what might be invitations for me and where those might exist. Like, I don't know exactly who I am or what my message is or where that's going to express itself at. And so there was something inside of me that had to come to peace with like, well, if it never unfolds for me the way I want it to, that's cool. I can live here and support. And it wasn't just a self-medicating, like, let me just stomp this out. It was actually a surrendered posture of like, but can I still be happy? Can I still thrive? Can I still outlet something outside of me? And what I realized was like one of the desires from early on as a kid was this sense of like, I would love to get paid just to talk to people. And so what started initiating was that portion of my desire unfolding and evolving. And what happened inside of that was me getting vision for what I had to say, what some of my life, a portion of my life message was. And I watched that evolved in getting outletted through some of your speaking engagements where I got invited as well. And I got to travel with you and then express myself there. And then I began to express myself tangibly through the Liberation Project when I did that first podcast. And that was such a deep game changer because I had my own authentic voice. It wasn't boxed in by who you want to be and how you think you're supposed to express yourself. I wasn't having to fit into some box to go next to you and not that I think that you were trying to box me in. It just, I didn't have to do that. And I didn't have to put myself inside of a box because of maybe the certain faith institutions' expectations of how to communicate myself or what messages I should be having. It was like, this is just Justin. This is Justin having his conversations with his people group. And I found myself coming alive. And one of the things that I put on my vision board was I had on it this picture of the world, and it showed like a ball going around the world, and the word said, my message going around the world. And with the Liberation Project, we got into 175 different countries or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like
it's happening.
It's happening. And I wasn't planning like this is going to go around the world. Totally. It was like, I'm going to have a conversation with me and my buddy.
Totally.
And we're just going to be authentic, and maybe 5 people will listen.
Well, and here's what people don't know. It's like ridiculously unheard of what happened with the Liberation Project, because you guys were 2 non-known people, like 0 fame for either of you. And then it blew up into a huge podcast that so many people around the world listen to.
Yeah.
It's kind of miraculous.
Yeah. But it was these yeses where I was open-handed and surrendered, yet also like, I have some sense of vision of like, yes, I meant to speak.
And here's the interesting thing about vision. You got opportunities to speak at a lot of events where you got to be authentically yourself.
Yes. Just
instead of boxed into a church version of you.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of events. You did your own event where you got to do that.
Yes, and which was one of my favorite events I ever spoke at.
Yeah.
It was on my terms.
So it's amazing. And this is how vision is. So then you had this podcast, which is all around the world as well.
Yeah.
So a part of your vision is your message being spread around the world, like knowing that that is part of what you were made for. And so I would say in one way, it's very much fulfilled.
Yes.
And in another way, and this is what I love about vision for our lives, is it's ever unfolding. So we're grateful for what we've experienced, as well as understanding it's ever unfolding. I think there's way more ways you're going to speak on the planet. I think there's way more ways that you're going to have a message. But also, if this was it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's letting go of the image of what you think it should look like, you know?
And timetables and things like that. Especially as I look at it, and in my posture of surrender, I can see like wisdom continues to grow as you engage this process. And so wisdom begins, you begin to have these eyes of wisdom and go, oh, I'm being equipped. I'm being empowered. I'm getting clarity. I'm getting refined in what I have to say, how I say it. And I'm like, oh, this isn't actually a really bad deal, because like me saying yes to a process where I'm in a posture of trust with vision is actually magnifying the greatness and the goodness of what I am releasing, because my heart's desire isn't to be super awesome. That's not my desire, but my desire is to be effective and to make a positive impact. And I can see how, as these things are happening inside of my soul, the genuineness of a positive impact is way more likely than before, when I was in certain messy areas of my own soul where I would have said and done things that not because I'm purposely being malicious, but because of pain and expressions of myself that aren't like letting myself be in that process actually is fulfilling even the bigger thing that I'm like, oh, I want to make the best impact possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is the thing of, at every step, having gratitude and knowing that your story isn't going to be like everyone else's story. I remember, so when I started speaking, I was 27. That felt old when the dream was from when I was like 7. You know what I mean? Like that was like 20 years of waiting. Now, obviously looking back, I'm like, you're young at 27. But I remember at 18, 20, 23, 25, watching my friends who were speaking places, watching my friends who went to a Bible college and now they're leading groups, or now they're in charge of this, or like watching all of that and being like, I'm not even close to my dreams. I'm not even a step closer to it. Like I went on the opposite direction. I just went on this journey of trying to figure out how to come alive. Yeah. Like the irony of our lives is that we spent years sowing into that, learning how to live fully alive. That's why we created a program about it. But we didn't know that we were actually building something in those years. We didn't know that that process would be the foundation that we lived our lives from, that we spoke from, that we taught from. So now I can look back and be like, oh, that whole process from 7 to 27 was really beautiful and powerful. But when I was in it, I was like, I'm not getting any closer to my dreams. I'm not moving towards anything. I'm never going to be good at anything. I'm never going to have something that I'm powerful at. And the comparison game will kill you with your dreams. If you're like, look at all these people that are getting closer to my dreams. Look at all these people. And so I had to actively surrender and be like, I'm going to love the life in front of me. I'm going to do the next right. Yes. I'm just going to do the next thing right in front of me. And I never would have written my story the way it was written. Like I never would have known that, like, in one instance, honestly, in 3 months, my speaking career got to the place of people who've been speaking for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I instantly just happened to be at a place that was streaming to hundreds of thousands of people around the world. I instantly accidentally got into a conference that is like one of the highest women's conferences and streams and people seeing, like, I could not have made any of that happen.
No. And people do try to manipulate their way into those situations, or push their way into them or work hard to get into them. And I'm not even saying that it's wrong to be like, all right, I'm going to specifically proactively do that. But it's like, there's something so much more beautiful when there's an act of trust and saying yes to the intuitive thing that's inside of you right now. And just being like, all right, I'll trust that.
Yeah. And I have I did a lot of practical steps the whole way.
Yeah.
I spent from 15 to 27 writing the story that I wrote in that one meeting in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I wrote in 10 minutes the journey I had gone on for 15 years.
Yeah.
So I think that's how suddenlies happen, is it looks like
they're an amalgamation.
I went from 0 to 60 in 3 months. But really what happened is I spent 20 years on a process and then had something to say about that process. And then that had impact. And so I just think the whole point of this is not even about speaking, but it's about the journey to dreams. I remember we did this. There came a point where we were working and I was like, I don't know how to find good employees. I don't know how to find, we need people who are wonderful to work with, are really fun, and are really talented at what they do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how to find them. And
that's a hard thing. That's something that felt impossible to me, of like, how do I find this thing that I want?
Yeah. And the thing is, so in starting our own business, there's a lot of lessons to learn, and hiring is one of them. Learning what types of people fit what types of role and what you're looking for and what you need. It's trial and error. And so some of it was, I put on our vision board pictures of fun teams. And I put words like amazingly talented, fun, skilled, hardworking, whatever it was. We could go look at it actually, because I still have it. But I wrote the words, and then I had multiple pictures of working together with people. I just go on images, you can image search working together, things like that. And I'd print them out. And then every day I'd look at them. It was in our kitchen. I would see the pictures, and I would say in my mind, this is what is going to happen for us. Yeah. This is where we're going to go. Now, that's the vision part. That's the I'm imagining a future where we have good employees. I'm wanting to see that it's possible. Half the reason I have those photos is to see that it's possible.
Yeah.
To start telling my mind to move its limits. No, it's not that you'll never find people. No, it's not that you don't know what you're doing in business. No, it's not that. You will find your people. You will, and so then that's the vision part of it. The practical part of it is we hired people and we fired people, and we went on the journey of learning and growing our skills as bosses.
Why didn't that work? How do I show up as a better boss?
Yeah. What is leadership? How do you train people better? How do you hold them accountable more when they're not doing what they should? Mm-hmm. How do you fire fast? We had to go through all those lessons. Now, I would say we have the dream team, the people that we're bringing in and the people that we are in that place of collision where we have people with great skill and great heart and great fun. And it feels like this year it's solidifying. Like these are the types of people that I saw. Now, this is probably 5 years after I originally put it on our vision board.
Yeah.
5 years and us sewing into learning the lessons that go with it. To me, it's not this magical thing on a vision board that like you put it on there and then it'll just happen. Poof.
Magic.
Lottery. No, you're seeing.
Vision is not magic.
No, it is meant to be a North Star. It's meant to broaden your horizons. The more you believe you're worth something, the more you believe something can happen for you.
Is available.
The more you can then also do the practical steps to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a vision one that you want to share about this house?
Yeah. I mean, like, how many years was it? We may have shared about the house a little bit in the past, but it was like 5, was it like 5 years or something?
Well, we started dreaming of a house.
There was this intuitive, like, hearing that I kind of had where it was like a house is coming sooner than you think. And then I had multiple people come to me who I'd never dialogued about it with. And we were talking, casually. And they were like, I just keep hearing this thing. It's like a house is coming sooner than you think. And I was like, okay. And then like 5 years goes by and then that house does not happen. But what it did, the initiation of that conversation began to push us into house hunting
and dreaming,
working with a realtor, dreaming, like, what do we actually want? Yeah. And there was a knowing that started happening inside of me as I was going along, and a knowing so much so that we began to put pictures up of like, oh, this is a must for me. And Abby was like, this is a must for me.
Yeah. Can we share a few of those?
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about the Airbnb that we went into?
Yeah, we went into an Airbnb that I just really liked a lot, a portion of it. And one of the portions that was really great is that when you went through the master bedroom, and after you got through the master bedroom to go into the bathroom, there was his and her closet space, and then a big open bathroom where there was a giant tub and just like a lot of freedom to hang out in that space. And I was like, maybe you did, but you found a picture of a his and her closet situation that's facing. No,
I didn't find the picture. I took the picture in the Airbnb. Oh,
that was the picture. Okay, that's right. Okay.
I took a picture of it because we loved the layout so much of how the closets and the master bathroom and the master bedroom all flowed together. Yeah. So we took a picture and then we literally put that picture on our vision board.
Yeah.
And then for me, I'll say one of mine and you can say one of yours. I wanted a backyard that looked really, really beautiful, but we didn't have to take care of.
Low maintenance.
I was like, I don't want to have to spend all of our time gardening and mowing and doing all that stuff, but I'd like something that is really beautiful and has a good view.
And a good view was something that you really strongly pointed out.
And not only that, we have to be able to see the sunset. Like we have to have a place where we can see the sunset. Because I was like, when I was so sick, the one thing that brought me comfort every night was being able to see the sunset.
And I was like, I need a giant tub where I can go relax, watch TV, and even have a view outside, like a beautiful view to look at from it.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, we'd gotten to a point where we'd given up on even potentially finding a house, and it just tapped out. And I suddenly had a client who was like, hey, I keep feeling like a house is about to happen. Within the next 6 months, you're going to get a house, and I'm going to be part of helping you with that. And he was part of the mortgage industry, a major voice in the mortgage lending industry. And I was like, okay, man. Like,
you listened to that divine nudge. You listened. And that's one of the things I would say with vision is paying attention to things. I was like,
I'm not quickly dismissive on something. If I feel something resonates in my gut, I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling logic on this, but I'm just going to say yes to it.
But you also don't overly put weight on things. So like when he said that, you weren't like, this means we're definitely getting a house.
No, it was like that balance. It wasn't like, I've made a full conclusion, but I am going to engage without it's okay. Like if it doesn't work out, that's fine. I'm investigating. And I think that that's kind of a part of it is investigating nudges without putting all this pressure on them.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to re-engage Zillow and just kind of see what's there. And I'm going to re-engage our realtor that we spent so much time with that never got a payment.
To sell us the house.
and suddenly started poking around at some homes because I felt right about it. And the morning of our 100th episode of The Connected Life, I woke up bright and early, and it was a live recording with a group of people. And it was like, I think it was like 5:30 in the morning, and I'd had a really rough night. I had a situation that was really rough, and I was just like, I don't even want to get out of bed today. It was a terrible day. And I look and open up my email to a Zillow listing that it shows a couple things, and I was about to delete it. And I felt this nudge that was like, no, there's more to this. And there was like, view entire message, a little button at the bottom. So I click it, and one extra house pops up. And I immediately felt this is your house.
Right.
And I was like, that's such an interesting feeling. And then I started looking at the pictures, and I'm like, this looks kind of crappy. Like, it's like, doesn't look updated or anything. And I was like, but I think there's something to this. It was 1990 looking house, and it was exactly
pink carpet, pink flowers everywhere,
carpet in the bathroom. It was all kinds of stuff, but
I think it had to have been like 80s.
Immediately, I reached out to our realtor, and I was like, I need to get in on this. Now that this listing had been posted that night, late at night. So no one had seen it yet.
Yep.
And so we ended up being the first people to come through, and you were not in a position. You were just like,
I was so sick.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have any capacity. I don't want a house. I don't want to have to move. I don't want to have to work on any projects. I have zero to give you towards our life. I am not functioning as a human. This is not the time to buy a house.
We walked in the house, and almost everything to the T as far as the layout, what we were wanting, the bones of it. I was like, this is literally what we've been talking about.
Oh yeah, we'd been talking, and I had so many pictures. Oh, I didn't say this. I had pictures of big open rooms where there was a kitchen that went into a big open living room, so lots of people could fit in it and be there. Like I had picked like 4 pictures of living room kitchens, 4 pictures of outside areas, and a couple pictures of the master bathroom scenario. So we had laid out. Now, there's a lot of give and take in that. I wasn't like, I need this exact backyard layout.
Right.
It was just like, here's 4 different beautiful backyard options. Here's 4 different houses. The layouts are very different, but it's a big open space.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting coming to the house because it was like multiple homes. Like I was open along. I said, hey, babe, if you don't like anything that we see along the way, we have to be in full agreement. I don't care. I'm not going to push us into anything. And there were multiple no's along the way. But when we walked into this house, I was like, this is a resounding yes. I can feel it in me.
Yeah.
And it's clearly all the pieces are here because we spent 5 years.
I think it was 6 by that point.
Maybe 6, whatever it was, really getting vision for what do we really want. And I'm going, this is lining up. This is crazy. And I was willing to have something missing. And I was like, there's not. And what I really wanted was a man cave. And there was room to build a man cave on the underside of the house. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And it was an interesting season because again, you didn't feel capacity whatsoever. And here's the interesting.
And honestly, can I be really honest? Yeah. I had no vision for living in Redding. So I did not want to buy a house and be tied here. Yeah. I was trying to get out.
Well, I was too.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it'd be helpful because I think it's that thing of trusting the process and trusting the steps, even when they don't fully make sense. So I was like, this doesn't seem like a right time for me to buy a house, but I knew it was the right thing.
Yeah.
We both felt it.
Yeah. And I was like, worst case scenario, a year from now, we sell it off and we move. Like we put some investment into it and whatever, but it didn't just come like this house was built in 1990 and it was the mayor's house. It was formerly the mayor's house in Redding. And so, to me, things like that are very special to me because they represent something. A mayor represents authority and influence. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like someone who was an influencer in this city lived inside of this house. It was originally theirs.
Yeah.
So for me, that spoke even more volumes to me. And I was like, all right, let's jump in this. But it wasn't an easy cakewalk.
No.
You had little to no capacity. And suddenly I'm thrust into something where what I don't know is like the next about 4 months, almost 5.
It was rough.
I am going to give every part of my soul into like transforming this whole space with me and a couple of friends and my dad. And it's going to cost me a lot of energy and emotions. And I'm going to face a ton of fears, feeling inadequate to be able to do it. And there was something about my masculinity that came alive, and it was more than a house, like vision for something. There's so many pieces of vision that aren't just like the simplicity of like, okay, we got the house. No, there's like an invitation to something being extracted out of us and developed within us and healed inside of us and challenged within us. And that was something that I began to do. And so there was a fight that I had to actually participate in with this vision to see it come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we so often as people get a piece of
absolutely
our vision.
It's lottery mentality. It's going to be magic.
Yeah. And it's going to be so easy. And then we easily can get defeated because we'll get into the thing that we wanted, but it won't be easy.
Yep.
And I accepted going into it. This is going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
This is going to cost me something. I'm not just talking about finances. I'm talking about energy, emotions, and all kinds of stuff inside of it. But I could feel inside it that, again, it was about something so much more than a house. And I think that when we buy into those invitations for vision, when we realize they're actually about something so much more than what they're about, like you start to go, well, whether or not I get the house, it doesn't matter. It's about the thing, the process that's going to come within it and what it's going to do inside of me.
Yeah. And so I do vision boards for all kinds of things. We've done it. I remember we did this, our first round, we got a blank check and a statement from our checking account of how much we had in the account. And then we whited it out and we wrote in numbers. And then it took a while for us to get so we put how much we'd have in savings. And we put a number in there that felt big to us, but not too big. A lot of people put something a lot of people would put $1 million. I want to have $1 million in my bank account. Well, that was not realistic when neither of us had jobs. I needed a number that felt doable. I needed a number that felt in my ballpark.
I remember when I dreamed for just could we have $20,000 in our savings?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's the number I think we wrote for our first vision ever on the thing. And then we got to 20,000 in our savings. And so then we did continually increase what we imagined we could make. We've done all kinds of things, imagining how much we could make, imagining how much we could have in savings, imagining how I want to be able to pay off our house in this many years. We've set a lot of things and we hold them loosely. They're like guideposts, not things we hang ourselves by. So I don't feel shame if it doesn't happen the way we thought it would, but I also feel vision to believe more and more. And the more things we've set the vision for in our heart, the more we've seen them happen and fall into place.
Yeah.
Then the more faith you have for the next time. And so the numbers build. What I believe for now is much bigger than what I believed for then. And here's how I kind of balance it. You want to believe for something that stretches you a little bit, but not too much, isn't unrealistic. If you think it's unrealistic for your soul, when you see the picture of it, your brain will actually say no. Your subconscious will say that won't ever happen.
Into defeat.
Yeah. You want something that your heart can be no, this could be real for me.
Yeah.
And I remember doing this with finances, and somebody made fun of one of my friends was like, I can't believe you're asking for that number. Why not ask for this bigger number? And I was like, because I actually don't have faith for that bigger number.
Yeah.
This big is big for me.
Right.
And when I get there, I can cross that off and then I can grow again. And so it's being realistic with where you're at. We listened to a bunch of podcasts by a guy named Gary Cassey about faith and deer hunting or something. I don't even remember it.
Back in the day.
But this is a concept I got from him, which was actually make sure you have the amount of faith to believe for what you're looking for and then slowly grow it. Yeah. And I do it in all areas. It could be friendships. It could be, and oftentimes I go for what I want to feel, not what I want to happen. So I have on our vision board family, and I don't have ideas on how that has to look. We adopt kids, we foster kids, we just have spiritual kids, we have neighbors that we pour into their grandkids. There could be 5 million ways. So what I do is I have pictures of family, and then I visualize the feeling of having traditions with people and I visualize a feeling, not the specifics or like relationships. I imagine feeling like I have friends and I feel really loved, and I think through what it feels like to feel really loved. And I get myself where I can actually feel the feelings now.
Yeah.
I borrow from feelings from other situations. Like, I remember I felt really loved in that moment. Okay, I'm going to imagine my life feels like I'm having feelings of love. Because when you start to feel, we talked about resource earlier, but when you get your nervous system to the place of feeling peace and love and safety, which is a lot of what you're visualizing. Like if I'm visualizing having finances, I'm visualizing feeling safe and secure with finances. Not just a specific number. I'm visualizing the emotion of feeling what do I feel with these finances? And so the more you actually can get your feeling, when you can bring your feelings into the place of what is it that I feel? Like I feel like I love my life. I feel safe. I remember spending so much time with this feeling like I want to go to the grocery store and not feel like I want to throw up when the cashier checks me out. What do I want to feel? I want to feel when I'm at the grocery store, like I can buy whatever food I need. And I imagined it. I had seen somebody who was rich and she just bought whatever groceries she wanted and didn't think about it and wasn't price checking everything and wasn't doing every single, you know what I mean? I grew up penny pinching. So I watched her and I was like, what would that feel like to just buy the food you want?
Yeah.
And so then I would visualize, it would feel like the weight is lifted off my shoulders and not everything's going to fall apart and there's not self-hatred and not everything's crashing. And so then I would sit and I would journal about what it would feel like. And one of the ways I did it is I'd be like, I'm so happy and thankful now that every time I purchase groceries, I feel peace. I feel so thankful for all the money I have that I can buy groceries. And I just went through what it would feel like to feel differently, because our emotions help us let go of limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
When we pull in a new experience that we want to have.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I have two things I wanted to share. I always thought about what would it be like if I could do things, extravagant things like randomly bless people and stuff. And I will share this story, not as a way of just to give insight. So I so many times sat down and thought about, okay, what would it feel like to just love on people and give them some form of extravagant gift or randomly surprise them with stuff and be
that was our vision for making money.
Enough.
It was to give it away.
Yeah.
Our whole lives.
Excuse me. I've always had a vision for giving away and a desire that one day that's what a part of our main job will be, giving away money, whether it's building institutions or building houses for people or who knows, educating people. But I, the other day, it was January 1st, and I was sitting eating breakfast at this cafe, and I just had this feeling. I'm like, I want to stand up and announce that I'm buying everyone's meal here today. And I was like, well,
it was a small little restaurant, just so people know. It was a small little cheap restaurant.
Yeah, it wasn't super an expensive thing. It was just, a breakfast cafe.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to figure out, I'm calculating. I'm like, all right, well, this is probably going to cost me, if I do this whole room, $1,000 based on how many people are here, average per breakfast. And I'm like, well, is that what I want to do? And so I don't know. I get to the front counter and they give you checks and you go to the counter with it to pay. And I'm like, it's back and forth. Like, is this something I should really do, not do? What do I want to do? This falls in line with the desires that I always have to love on people and surprise them and bless them. And I'm standing there and I'm going to pay for my ticket. And this sweet old woman comes up behind me, and she was eating alone, and she was so precious. She, like, I could feel goodness and love from her.
Yeah.
And so the lady says the cost of my ticket. And I was like, hold on a second. I turn around and I grab the check out of the old lady's hands, like very gently. But I was like, oh, excuse me, miss. I need this. And I go, here you go. I'll take this too. And she's like, wait, what? And I'm like, I got your meal. She's like, oh my gosh, you're wonderful. God bless you. I'll be praying for you. I can't believe you did that. That's just what, but then it kept escalating. So people kept coming up behind me as so they're trying to process her check. And then another person appears. I'm like, why not this one too? And why not this one too? And and then it escalates into me like, that table over there with all those, there was a couple of moms with multiple children, which I'm like, I don't know if they have enough money. Like, I don't know what their financial situation is. I'll take care of them. And then there was another family, and the lady behind the cashier was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. Like, I'm trying to hold back tears. People don't do this. And my whole point of this isn't like, oh, I'm so awesome. It was like, I'm living in the middle of that dream. And I'm like, this is what I dreamed. These are the ways that I've dreamed of, like, loving on people. And these are the fun feelings. And these are the fun experiences that I'm watching it unfold in front of my very eyes. And I love that I'm in a position that I could do something like this.
Well, and one of the things I learned at a young age was don't wait till you have what you think you need to be able to do
it. You start.
So don't wait till you have millions of dollars before you do something like that. Like there's like, we have budgeted every year for Christmas giveaway money.
Yeah.
And we had that from the giveaway money that we could actually do.
Just be like, here, let's touch people.
But it's the thing of like not waiting till whatever it is you think. Like, there's often a way, even if it's that you find a small way to do something. There's always a way to make it.
You were in the store the other day and a little kid was like wanting something really.
Yeah, it was $18.
It was $18.
And their mom was like, no, we just can't right now financially. And so I grabbed it and I went and bought it and then brought it back and gave it to them. And she was so excited. It was like changed her life. It was $18.
But that $18, like, you don't have to be like rich, super rich to go, oh, that's
I'm just looking for the divine nudges. I'm looking for the divine inspiration. Whatever.
So going back to vision, because there was another piece as well that I wanted to talk about real quick. I remember when I first moved into the offices that we're at, where Blair's working, and before I moved in there, I was like, one day I want to be like in a workspace where there's people that all carry the same values that I have.
Yes.
And that I can be connected to people. And I moved in with Blair, and then there was multiple other business people that were in this space. And I kept the vision. No, I want a whole group of people that are like emotional health people and things like that. And slowly people started moving out. And then I started like letting people know who like had emotional health backgrounds, and they started moving in. And all of a sudden, like, I now have a workspace where the entire office space are really good-hearted, good-natured people, where conversations are had through all these different offices that connect to each other, and a good percentage of them work inside of emotional health. I'm like, that's a simple thing that I had vision for, but it was vision for like my experience about who's around me. What, like, you don't have to, even if you're not a business owner, you could be like, well, I want to be part of a business where they have this type of culture. Where is it at? Where do I find it? How do I participate with that?
Oh, totally.
And initially when I got there, it wasn't there at the foundation of it, but it evolved into it. And I've many times sat back and been like, this is exactly what I was hoping for. And I saw it came into fruition.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so this is your invitation to get inspired.
Yeah.
To actually start dreaming about the possibilities and push back. I think we might actually do even one more episode on this, because for so many years I had so much hopelessness. I think we should talk about hopelessness and desperation in our next one, and how those are the enemies of vision, because I don't want to go into it all now, but yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll dive into the things that steal our ability to have vision. But if you're listening out there I want this to be your divine nudge to go sign up for Living Fully Alive. It will help you connect to your heart. It will help you expand your limiting beliefs. It will help you understand the power of your beliefs. It will help you know what your emotions are and why they're driving you and where they're driving you. And it'll help you feel like you are in the driver's seat of your life again. And so this is your last chance to do it, 2023. And we're really excited. I will be leading some of the live consulting calls for the immersion program, along with actually Johnny Pizzi's husband will be doing that as well. And Rachel, our master life consultant. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
So we'd love to have you there.
Justin and Abi, that's abi.com. And you can sign up there under Living Fully Live under courses.
Come follow me on Instagram. I love interacting with people. Don't write me your life story as a DM because then I feel so much pressure to respond well. But start messaging me a little bit and I start to build friends. Like I've got a lot of friends with our listeners who follow me on Instagram because we just message back and forth a lot and I love it.
Yeah, it's so cool. And
Abby Stumble.
Yeah, ABI Stumble. If you haven't done it, do us a favor. Go write a review on iTunes.
Yeah.
If you got touched, helped, impacted, share it with people. But go to iTunes and write a review. I love getting reviews there, and it helps it boost. It's like notoriety when people go on and they go, "Oh, I see an amazing bunch of reviews." Yeah.
Not only that, join our mailing list. This year, we're going to start emailing out. Not our mailing, but our email list. If you do it on our website, you just go to our website, a pop-up will show up. But we're going to start doing content this year more.
We're going to just send free content out. As we're developing all that. So
Yep.
Yippers. So this is the end. I'm going to go to bed.
Pew, pew, pew. Me too. I'm so tired.
All right. Hey, everybody. Love y'all. Peace out.
Love you.